Hey guys, it's been a while since you've heard from me on this channel like this, and pardon the voice, as per usual, I'm very ill. I did want to film this introduction for this podcast though, just to explain a little bit of the changes we're making. As you can tell by our new fancy title, we're sort of doing away with seasons from now on, mostly because we don't really have a reason to do it anymore. You know, Shrug has moved on, he's a married man now, he doesn't need to spend his summers at Bible camp. So from now on, we're just going to be making Manga Alert basically whenever we want. Will we still be trying to keep a consistent schedule of at least one podcast a month? Yes, but I'm sure by now you know that we'll try. That's the main thing. Now, you see, a problem with, like, the last season of Manga Alert is that a lot of us, we just don't really read as much manga anymore, so oftentimes we didn't really have a ton to talk about. But that's going to be changing because we're moving back to a format just sort of what Manga Alert was like originally, where each episode is basically going to be focused on a manga that we have all read. We'll still do the general discussions every now and then, like the sales cast, we'll still do that obviously, but we think this will be a good way to get us all engaged and, you know, be more topical about stuff. So this one's for My Hero. We're going to do, like I said, the sales cast next, then we're going to be doing Jujutsu Kaisen, followed by Dandadan, and we're just going to continue like that for pretty much as long as people are willing to listen to us. And if you are still listening to us after all this time, you're insane, but we love you. It's kind of crazy that Manga Alert, after all these years, is still the #1 manga podcast on the planet of all time, and we are only getting started, so here you go. We're Manga Alert guys. Of course we read manga while eating the chicken bake.
We're Manga Alert guys. Of course we get the best deals on new early releases for manga.
You ruined it, man.
Shut up. Bro, I'm literally trying for this stupid bit of the Costco guys, and it just started.
You don't even...
And this is ridiculous.
You're supposed to mention the double...
We're manga guys. We don't even read manga.
Yeah.
We do now.
We do now, that's right. Welcome back, everyone, to Manga Alert. Finally, as you just saw from that fancy intro I recorded, we're changing things up a bit now. We're sort of throwing out seasons. We've entered our Manga Alert Super era. We're going to be releasing weekly episodes for probably 5 years, however long those shows normally go.
So true.
Yeah. Anyway, today we're here to talk about My Hero Academia. Shit, I just remembered I was going to do the bit about the theater guy. Like the Deku theater guy.
Oh, yeah!
I was going to do that, but I forgot because I got so caught up with the Rizzler shit.
We're going plus ultra beyond!
Before we talk about My Hero Academia, I'd like to tell you about my hero. His name is All Might.
Before we watch Dragon Ball Superhero, we have to talk about the best hero, All Might.
We do have to talk about the elephant in the room, though. As you all know, we delayed this podcast so Base Senpai could be on it. Unfortunately, he has died. I'm not even like he is dead.
Cunt.
And we're all very sad about it, but life must go on. Manga Alert must go on.
Rest in peace.
Yep. Theme song.
We bring the boom. That's what we do. We bring the boom. We bring the boom to you. We bring the boom. Across the red, white, and blue. We bring the boom. You got a hero crew.
All right, guys. So today we're here to talk about My Hero Academia. Big one, right? This is a series we have, I feel like at almost every single podcast ever, we're like, well, is it almost over yet? What's going on?
To be fair, it kept going and kept going and kept going, and it didn't have to.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. So we are all here today. We have all read the complete series. Now, if you remember years ago, I want to think season 4 maybe, we did a video on the series when maybe like half of it had come out. Disregard all of that. That was ages ago. I don't even remember what we said. We're here to talk about the series today as it stands as a completed thing. And yeah, I think we should probably start, I guess, just going through everyone's history with it. So, like, Apollo, what was your first interaction with My Hero? And it was like this reread we did. Was it like the first time you'd read it? Was it the second? What's up there?
So no, I didn't start reading it for the podcast. I want to say that I read it because I forget what their name was, but it was a manga tuber that did a haul on the first
Chibi
volume.
reviews? Or was it
And,
Gear Third Manga?
Maybe.
Gear
No.
Third Manga?
No. It wasn't
Yo,
Gear Third
I know
Manga.
that guy.
don't
What the heck?
I don't know who that guy is. No, honestly, it may have been either Gear or.
Bro, that's crazy. I picked up that shit in like
or,
2015. 9 years ago. What the fuck?
I forget what his name was, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway. So, maybe NZ Animanga? Maybe? I don't know.
Whoa.
So I started reading it like maybe within 5 months of the first volume releasing in English. And when it first started, I was very intrigued because I have been into like superheroes and like Marvel and DC since I was just a little kid, like very, very small kid. And I was into manga when I was a really small kid too. I used to pick up the Shonen Jump magazines that released every month.
Nerd.
So like for this kind, you know what? Fuck you, bro.
I'd bully you. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna shove my.
Whoa, that was actually a threat of sexual assault.
I know we're vulgar on the cast, but I feel like
Yeah, who
I
do you
should
think you work
censor
for,
that.
Mr. Beast? Get out of here.
It's
Apollo
fine.
crime number 1. Hello.
All right, keep going.
So when I first started reading it, I was very intrigued. I enjoyed it. I don't think I thought it was like the next big thing.
You absolutely did. You're the biggest honeymooner here. Shut the fuck up.
No, not when it first started.
Okay.
It was during the villains arc that I was honeymooning the fuck out of it.
Fair enough.
Especially during the All Might versus One for All fight.
And we should say, just in this podcast, we're just assuming everyone listens has read the series or doesn't care about spoilers, because we don't care. We assume you all know what this is. We're not going to be explaining any plots here. Come on, My Hero. We all know it.
Should we have like a spoiler section for like after where the anime is though?
No, we
No.
don't
Just in
care.
case there's anime
The anime
only.
is like
Yeah.
almost caught up to the manga. I was actually kind of shocked by that. But
But yeah, so I was like super into it once like the Stain arc happened, and like that kind of like once Stain happened, that kind of piqued my interest to the point where I was like, okay, this is maybe the next big thing, right? And so I kept reading on a weekly basis until after the villains arc happened. And it got to that point in the manga where there was like a slight plateau. And I stopped reading it on a weekly basis, but I kept collecting it for a while until I had, maybe not everybody knows, but there was a flood in my apartment a few years ago. I lost almost all of my manga. I had like maybe 150 volumes left in my collection. Some of my My Hero survived, but I sold them off. I think I'm gonna probably get the box sets when they release, but I think in general my experience with the manga was relatively happy. I think for the most part, through the first like 30 volumes, I think I enjoyed it for the most part.
all right, well, we'll get into that after. But I think Buzz, it's your turn.
So, like most people, I knew about My Hero since it was new, just because of how popular it was. But I had never seen it. I'd never watched the anime, never read the manga, nothing like that. The only things I really knew about My Hero was because of internet drama.
You were like,
people getting mad.
you were
about
like, this is
stuff.
too popular. I won't read it. Probably overrated. I'm not.
True. Yeah, I was too cool for it. Okay, guys. And I just never really engaged with the series at all until Viz released the box set. So I decided to buy the box set. Now I have a tradition when I buy new box sets, and that is to just absolutely no life read the entire box set in bed. And so I did that with My Hero, the first 20 volumes, and it was very fun. I actually really, really loved it. It was like I was honeymooning the frick out of the first 20 first 20 volumes. And so, of course, you know, Viz being Viz, they have not released the next box set. So, I had to keep reading it digitally.
And so,
And I caught up.
but like this, you have only read the series once, right? Like I think that's
Yep.
the big difference
Yeah,
here.
recently I did like a binge read.
Yeah, where the rest of us like were
Yeah,
into it for a
so-
while, but yeah.
So when I caught up on the Viz app, just like reading it, I caught up during the final battle. So it was like very close to the end, and then I read it weekly just for the ending. So I am very, very recent to the series. I really don't have a history with it besides like a year ago getting into
we
it,
can
which is
so we
kind of
can
interesting
disregard all of
because
Buzz's opinions then.
true, but it's interesting though because of the things that I had heard about it online. I had like a lot of expectations for the series, and so it's kind of interesting to like compare what I thought I knew about the series because of pop culture, and like comparing that to like what it actually
For
was.
sure.
Kind of.
Yeah. Shrug, what's your story? What's your Hero
So-
Academia?
My story with it is honestly it was sheer coincidence, and kind of luck, because this was like my very, very early days of collecting manga. I think like the only things that I had in my collection at the time were my librarian gave me Inuyasha. I had the first One Piece box set.
Oh, she must be like your mortal enemy. What the hell?
Yeah, we got beef now. Then I had like just like it's like handful of series. There was like I had a couple of volumes of like Attack on Titan and Fairy Tail and Soul Eater, but then I was just like I want to find something that I'm not really like aware of. So, My Hero hadn't blown up in popularity quite yet. I mean, I think that people were talking about it because they were just like, oh, new manga, things like that. So I went to Books A Million and I had looked at the manga section and I had seen that there was like a lot of copies of My Hero Volume 1. And again, I didn't know anything about it, but I was just like, oh, this seems pretty popular. So I picked it up because I was just like, oh, I like that it's like an American comic book cover. I think that's really, that's cute. And then I picked it up and I went home and did my research on it. And lo and behold, everyone is now like talking about it. And I was just like, oh, that's crazy. So then it blew up and it started doing really well. And I have kept up with it monthly.
Monthly.
This is actually the first time in my life. I think a new volume has probably come out within the last couple months. This is the first time in my life that I have not picked up a new volume of My Hero Academia. But like I'm pretty caught up with it. And I enjoyed my time with it. But I think that my reread of it was only the second full time that I've ever read it. I used to like read the volumes when they would come out like physically, and then I like did one big read of it, and I think this is my second full time actually just like reading through the whole thing.
Fun. As for me now,
Nice.
I've already made a full video on this on YouTube/Joel's Library. But I'm sure all of you have seen it, right?
I'm subscribed.
Got a little plug in there.
And anyway, yeah, so I won't really say much, and I mean, most of you watching this probably already know my story with it, but yeah, I got into the series like as soon as the volumes came out in English. I was really big into it. I was watching the anime as that was airing, and eventually, kind of once we got into the final arc, I sort of just stopped because I just wanted to wait for it to finish. It took a very long time for it to finish, but it eventually did. So when it did end, I read the whole thing from the beginning, and I was pretty interested. There was some stuff I noticed that was pretty interesting about the reread, which is where I kind of want to get into the discussion. I mean, we've already talked and we know like the early parts of the series pretty well, so we're probably mostly going to be focusing on the like the last third of it or so. But I did just want to mention a couple things from my reread, and the sports festival was a lot better than I remembered. I thought that was like a really strong arc, and actually like really difficult to do, and he pulled it off really well. So that was something that was fun to see. But like on the opposite end, I thought like the forest training arc was not as good as I remembered. Like there were a lot of just like interesting things like that I picked up on. I don't know if any of you guys had similar thoughts or not, but
I definitely think for me, the reading through the second time, it felt a lot harder to get into. Like I think the beginning, like the first volume isn't bad, but I think up until the sports festival, which is fairly early on, I was like I was kind of bored. Like it didn't really grab me at first. I think the first chapter is really good, but then like after that I was kind of that first volume is pretty solid, but then right up until the sports festival, I was a tad bored.
In retrospect, it's really like weird because like you start the series and like Mineta has the most like page time of like all the other students, and like Todoroki is not even a character until the sports arc. Like it to me, a lot of this series, when I was reading it, it felt like there's so many characters here, and it almost feels like he just kept throwing stuff at you to see what stuck, and then the stuff that stuck he like would continue on to develop. But yeah, there was just some interesting stuff like that I noticed. A lot of the best parts I still remember being as good as they were, like obviously the hideout raid arc, the overhaul arc, the stuff with the villain backstory, all super solid. And yeah, but of course, what was new to most of us was the stuff that came after that, and so I think we'll start up the discussion. So there's like this mini time jump where Deku becomes like Batman and like leaves, and he's off on his own, and I didn't mind this part really, but at the same time, I don't know, it felt kind of weird to me. This was when I started to feel like the series, I think there were a lot of elements of the series that Horikoshi wanted to expand upon more, but he didn't really get the full chance to, so he sort of like sped run a lot of things.
Oh, I agree with that. I felt that arc was very random, very rushed. It kind of felt like Horikoshi didn't really know what he wanted to do with it or something.
Lady Nagant's fire, love her, but she's one of those characters that like gets introduced and that's about it. Like, It feels like, and I mean, the series was already so long, but to me, it feels like this series actually might have benefited from even being longer, just so you could explore some of these things more. But overall, I was still enjoying the series, and once Deku comes back, so one thing that I remember from the first time I read it being really dumb was the traitor reveal. But what I noticed on a reread is that I actually thought the traitor reveal was really well done and really well executed. And I think it really comes from a problem that comes from reading weekly manga, is that you forget things, right? Like, from the time it was revealed there was a UA traitor, and the actual reveal was like 5 years or something. And where in the manga it was maybe 6 months, but like again 5 years, you forget a lot of details. So when it's Aoyama, you're like, what, the stupid belly button guy, who gives a shit? But when you actually like go back to the early parts of the series where Aoyama was being developed, and you learn about how his quirk is like Deku's, and you can sort of piece together that it was given to him. All for One's the only person who can give quirks to people. All the pieces sort of fall into place once you read it all together. And I actually thought it was really smart having, the traitor being this, like, insignificant comic relief character, because you kind of don't think about him, right? Like, even if it makes perfect sense, everyone thought it was, like, the electric guy or Invisible Girl, right?
I was going to say, I know when I was reading it, I was, like, 100% certain it was Invisible Girl.
Yeah, and they kind of do the bait and switch when it happens. Like, she's actually the one who discovers that it's him. Also, very odd side note, and we'll have a lot to say about the final arc, but that shit where where they learn his belly button laser can like make her visible.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't.
and
Yeah, we just gotta wait for the final arc, man. I can't even talk about anything until.
before we get into that, we should also mention the other big thing that happens in the final act, which is a Star and Stripe. What the fuck?
Oh my god.
No, stop! We have to wait. We have to wait.
We have to
Yeah,
wait.
talk
Hold
about
on.
all
Okay,
the
hold
final
on. So before we get into any of that, because we're technically still in the beginning saga before we even get to like Rise of Villains.
What?
So,
No, wait.
What?
What?
I mean, you've
Bro,
been
we're just talking about
skipping
the
around the
trailer reveal,
entire
what?
time.
I said we were mostly going to focus on the last third.
Oh my god. Okay, fine.
I
When do
mean,
you say that?
I said that at the beginning. Like, if you guys want to... I don't know. I was, like, briefly going through it. If you guys want to add other stuff, go ahead. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah?
To talk about the general thoughts on the first third, I guess just so that way we can get right into talking about all the stuff that people really want to hear. The sports festival's good. The Stain stuff I think is okay. I can hardly remember Stain, I'm gonna be honest, and I literally read it like a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And then the
Real.
part where they were all in the woods was pretty cool. But also everything involving like the trader stuff for Ayama, isn't it like I feel like I read something somewhere like that he was definitely not the initial like planned trader. But I don't
When you
I can't
stepped
confirm
away,
that.
when you stepped away for a second, were you listening to what we were talking about?
No.
We were literally just talking about how good the Aoyama trader was.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
like I don't think it's bad.
Well, I
just,
was saying upon reread, it all made perfect sense to me, and there were like a lot of hints. But I was saying basically, what happens is people forget details when it takes like 5 years to happen. So I can perfectly understand someone who hasn't read it in a while like thinking that. But I just thought it was well.
yeah,
executed.
no, I think that it's like that it's well done, and I'm like I think that's good for him for a character that's like not had a lot of limelight. But I also do think I feel like I read somewhere that somebody was saying, yeah, he was not the initial like plan to be the trader.
He may not
But
have
I
been
can't
the
confirm
initial
that.
one.
Like I don't
think
want to like speak for someone
as
else.
soon as we get to the part where he's like stalking Deku in the night, I think by that point it was pretty much locked in. But
Yeah.
not from the beginning. But yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
And also, I feel like a problem with it being kind of like an insignificant side character, Inuyama, he's not very important for the story, right? So I feel like the fact that the trader after all that time was him,
Yeah, well,
was kind of
that's
lame.
the other thing.
Like I really wish it was like a main character.
Yeah,
turned out
that's
to
the
be
problem.
villain,
Like
you know?
the whole series really has is there's so many characters, and Horikoshi tries to make them all significant, and it drives me crazy because like before the like final parts, like I always thought the worst parts of the series were when we just had to spend time with all these other random nonsense students. And I think that's where I think the sports festival was really good at balancing like all of the interesting students. But when you get to shit like the Class A versus Class B arc, and we have to like be
Yeah.
with like Mushroom Girl and
People are having like these emotional moments, and it's like I'm pretending to care.
there's a part I don't like in the Forest Training arc where we have a fight with the guy who can turn to metal, and I'm just like, Class A has a student with the exact same power. Why are we doing it with the metal guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They also have Class B. That's like they
yeah,
even,
yeah,
they
God,
even show
I
that.
hate Class B. I was reading like you could literally, I think if you take the few important characters from Class B, you could easily fit them all into Class A. Like get rid of like the
Absolutely.
get rid of the Z-listers, the sugar guy,
There was
fucking the tail guy. Like what are they doing here?
Why would you want to get rid of Sugar Rush? He's so cool. He's not. It's no.
I just honestly, I think that the guy that can talk to animals is pretty adorable. I know that like
Nah,
not a
I'm
lot
sorry.
of
He
people
can
are,
die.
like,
I don't care, man.
You know what? Go fuck yourself.
He was-
Here.
crime number 2,
He was in,
Apollo.
like 3 scenes in the entire series.
Make it happen.
We'll talk more about him in the final arc too. But
I think I'm looking at like the wiki to see kind of like how everything's split up, and they literally do split it up into three
three
major sagas, and
Yeah.
then like each
Yeah.
of them has the first saga like ends right after they like right
Do the
after
hideout
All Might
raid.
fights One for All, or
Yeah.
All for One, whatever, and then the second saga is definitely the to me the best part of the whole dang series. Like
Yeah.
it's
Absolutely.
heat.
The villain saga is.
it
in my opinion,
does
the best part
have
of
the
Image.
Class A versus B arc, but I think aside from that, it is pretty solid.
I think reading the Class A versus Class B stuff is not that bad. I actually
Yeah, that is true. I do think like it's not long, right? And that's
it's not long, and apparently like it is. It's like extended a lot in the anime.
Oh yeah,
It is. It's terrible.
It's yeah.
I actually don't mind that part. The Class A versus Class B stuff, even though they are a little bit forgetful, I think that it's fun if they're gonna have this many characters. At least like have some entertaining action, and I thought.
But
that was
again,
really
I just
cool.
feel like you could do the same stuff just with half the characters, right?
Yes, I agree. It's a massive cast.
So, like, in my opinion, I thought the remedial course bullshit was also really dumb. But that's just. I
I'll
think that's
kill
just me.
you.
Okay, fuck you, I guess.
Yeah.
It's so crazy to me that like, yeah, that there's like, you go from the when they're fighting the Yakuza, and then it goes to like all of the villain stuff. Well, I mean, it takes a little bit, but just like I think that definitely the best arc is when they have the big war at the end when
Yeah.
man, what's his name? He's the main freaking villain.
Shigaraki.
Yeah, when everything with Shigaraki at the end of
Really
like
good,
the
yeah.
like the second saga is heat. Definitely like I think that it's all pretty like that's the part of My Hero that I tell everyone that's the best part. Like
My favorite arc is probably the Overhaul arc, but I think the war arc you're talking about would probably be a close second. It's definitely
I would make that like the
Yeah.
one that you're talking about, the Overhaul arc. That's definitely my second.
yeah, like these are for sure the best parts.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean they are pretty significant parts of the series, so good stuff, man.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
do find the one page I found really funny about that arc though is at the very end when they show all the heroes who died, and there's like 20 of them, but you have no fucking idea who any of them are.
Yeah.
Except for Midnight,
Real?
who of course again Midnight was never really a important character anyway. But
Then
I'm
they
just like-
the one
Wait.
issue that actually goes into a big thing that I want to say is that some of the characters that were told to be important are so insignificant, and so the impact, like, it sucks that Midnight died, and I obviously was just like, oh man, that stinks. But it's like there's so many characters that the story's just like they're important. You just have to like them, and I just don't.
I was kind of shocked rereading it to find that Midnight had almost little to no dialogue. Like, I remember her being more important because there was always like an emphasis on her, but she really doesn't do anything besides like whip Mineta, right?
No, and then like
Yeah.
it's the same way with like a lot of the teachers too, except for like Eraserhead and All Might. So like 13 was like this big hero that was introduced during the training arc, but after that he didn't really
Yeah.
show up ever again.
And-
I don't remember ever seeing him again ever.
And I just wish, like, I don't think you need characters dying all the time to make your story better, but like, I think he should have like killed off half the students. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm like,
pull a Demon
especially
Slayer
like
on
in
it.
like the final arc and stuff. Like, it's kind of shocking how few casualties there are on the hero side.
That's
Yeah,
just, I mean,
especially
that's just
if
a big
you're,
shonen
like-
problem in general. Is
Oh,
like,
oh, for
I mean,
sure. For sure, but I just think when the cast is this large and there's so many expendable characters, I mean, if I were him, I just like fucking. I mean, like, and that's one thing I always give Demon Slayer credit for. It massacred the cast, and it was awesome.
and like,
Yeah.
it is so crazy, but at the same time, that leads into the fundamental issue that it's more the final arc made me feel like that Deku as a character lost all of his like independence, like in importance. Like obviously he was the main focus, but they had a point of where I forgot where they said it. I think it was right at the beginning of the third, like right as the final arc starts, right? And it to me, and they're like, this is not the story of how I became a great hero. It's how we became it. And I'm like, that's definitely different than what typical shonen is, and it's focusing more on the cast. But the problem is when all of class, well, not all of them, but when majority of class A is so boring, then I care so less about them as a group and what they end up accomplishing. And so it's like,
Yeah.
they like you said, if some of them would have died, then that would have, like you said, it doesn't. You don't have to kill people to make it interesting.
but it could
But
have
I'm
added
already
stakes,
not interested.
and it
Yeah,
wouldn't
like
really,
there's just no stakes. I'm not
Like-
interested in this cast, really.
Right. Like
But if you would have killed them, I would have been like, man,
Right.
they've come so far.
like if
Cool.
Frog Girl died, like it wouldn't affect the story, but it would be like, oh shit, Frog Girl is
Yeah,
dead.
it would.
Shit's
Well,
going
so
around.
like, I don't think
I would have
Asui
dropped
should
the
have been.
series if Frog Girl died.
Not real. I don't think Asui should have died. I think if they had killed off some of like the lesser known A characters, so like Sero or Ojiro, like
They should-
Tail Guy and
they
Tape
should have been
Guy.
killed.
Who?
They should have been killed off in the editing room.
Sero
Dog, I'm
is
just looking up at the class
That's what
list
I'm
right
saying.
now. Who
Sero is
He's
the
tape guy.
cellophane tape
He's the
guy,
tape guy.
and then Ojiro is Tail Guy. I think if they had killed those two off, maybe Sato too. He Sugar Rush.
Now, before we get too far into the final arc, I do want to talk about Star and Stripe. Jesus Christ is all I'll say. So one of the big problems, and I brought this up in my video I have with the series, is how it sometimes handles its world building. Like, I feel it doesn't often introduce concepts about the world until it's relevant to the story. Like, I think it's insane that it takes so long to reveal who the strongest students at the school are. Like, why does it take, like, I don't know, like 14 volumes for us to meet like a third year student, right? But the worst instance of this is when they're like, all right, let's ask the nations of the world for help. And then for the first time ever, we see heroes from other nations. And
Yeah,
oh,
like
Yeah.
oh my god,
if-
man.
Like, that should have been a volume 1 thing. What the heck?
well, if heroes are so coalesced into society, and it's such a major deal, it makes me think of like in Soul Eater when they show all the death scythes. Like,
Yeah.
there's an immediate issue right there. That's why they need to show up.
Yeah.
But if they already know that there is like somebody who is this big of a threat already, why did it take them this
Well,
long?
and they sort of say they're like, oh, we don't want to interfere, but it's like, guys, come on. And also, and just like, okay, well, there's like the Egypt hero who's literally just dressed like a pharaoh. And then you have Star and Stripe, the American hero, who's just the American flag. Like, imagine if All Might was called, like, Nippon Man and just had, like, wore white with, like, a red dot, right? Like, what are we doing?
Honestly, that would have been kind of lit if they had went the full racist with it and did the Rising Sun flag.
I'm number 3. Apollo supports
gosh.
racism. That gum.
You know what? All of you go fuck yourself.
Cancelled.
The Stars and Stripes stuff.
Pearl Harbor Smash. Sorry.
Oh,
Yo, there's a hero named Big Red Dot. It's real. Just kidding.
Okay, so
His name is Big Red Dot, but he's not that.
yeah,
flag.
okay. I thought that the Stars and Stripes stuff, was interesting. Obviously, like you said, I think that her dying was great. Like, in the sense that it's just like, oh man, that was a character that was introduced, and we understood that she was the number one. And I mean, just at a basic level, I think that it was fine. But again, like you said, why are no more global heroes showing up?
But, like, imagine if they had just been mentioning Star and Stripe in passing throughout the whole series as, like, the world's strongest hero or something. And, like,
Yeah,
that would be
especially
so
after,
much
like-
more... Like, even if this is the first time we actually see her, just knowing about her would have made her death so much more impactful. Because she basically ends up being a plot device to give Shigaraki a weakness, right? That's, like, basically her entire purpose. And the fact that she is introduced a few chapters before it happens, it's like, all right, man.
Well, there's also the fact that, like, okay, yes, there's hero rankings, like, just a few, like, I think it's like 3 or 4 times that they changed the rankings within the series. But then what's wild to me is that if All Might, the number one hero, had something this heavy happen to him, why are, like, again, why are other heroes not being informed? They're like, yeah, do we need to call anybody else in? Or does Endeavor need to, like, discuss and have a meeting with, like, the other global heroes?
What's the status of NATO in this world?
It probably
Guys-
doesn't exist because there's world heroes.
Guys, do you want a brain teaser?
True.
What year do you think this series takes place in?
Wasn't there years listed in the manga?
No, but I looked into it, and I'm kind of like, so there's references to things that happened in our past, but based on all the information we are given, it was modern times when Quirks first showed up. And then this series is set 8 or 9 generations after that.
Yeah, so like 160 years. 140
Yeah, so
years?
this basically takes place in like 2150 or something, which is just
Could be
something
real.
interesting. So yeah, maybe NATO is gone. I don't know.
There's whole ass fucking Naruto characters in this manga, in this anime. There's a school called Seijin High School, and it's literally just like Sand Ninja, is what it looks like.
Yeah, those are the yeah, that's just the thing, like Horikoshi sometimes expands the world and he sometimes doesn't, and it's just like whatever, man.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Thinking about Star and Stripe, like, I bet Horikoshi was just drawing one day. He drew female All Might and was like, "Yo, I can work with this."
And then
Anyway,
ratings went down. He's like, "Fuck this girl."
before we now I'm sure we all have thoughts on the final arc, but I kind of want to start off with the 2 things I thought were super fire about it. For one, how it started, where they do like the trick with Aoyama and they like all come through the portals. Hell yeah, that shit was hype as hell. Very good. And I also
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
I also
honestly.
just think in general throughout the entire series, all the stuff with the Todoroki family is like amazing. I think that's like easily the best part, and even during the final arc I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Endeavor's the GOAT, my favorite abuser. The stuff with Dabi was great.
You got a
Just-
favorite?
Oh yeah. I got the top 10 list. Want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely think that I do not like the beginning of the final arc.
Well,
it's interesting to
cringe.
see. It's interesting to see Deku be the vigilante. I think that is so interesting. And then, just like I said, it's now less important about Deku and more important on the Class 1A.
Yeah.
And I just don't give half a rip about them.
So this-
and when they when they all save him, that is so cringe. That it is so
Yeah.
stupid. It like
Yeah, they gotta go in for a group hug.
I would like, and I think that over time, I don't know how to feel about Bakugo. I don't know how to feel about him, but it should have at least been either him or Ochako. It shouldn't not have been the whole dang class, who I don't think I've ever seen Deku talk to some of these people one-on-one. Like, we're just we're just expected to care, and so it's like this deep, impactful thing. It's like, no. It's like, I can't think of the last time before, like, leading up to the final arc, I can't think of a time that like Izuku and Ida like interacted, and so it's like this thing of that's like the biggest problem that the final arc suffers from, is that everyone needs to have their moment. No, it's not about them.
And the one, because we look back at like the previous war arcs, like the stuff with Overhaul, the big thing with the villains, like what the thing about those is that even though the cast is gigantic, they still focused on like a core cast of important characters, right?
Yep.
Ones that you actually spend a lot of time with and grow to care about. But then when the final arc happens, it's like, oh, but we gotta do like a whole 10-chapter interlude about the Animorphs fighting against racism. Yeah, that part was the probably most insane thing about this to me.
Well, you call them Animorphs? Cancelled.
Well, they're called something, but like, and the thing is, like,
Animorphs.
I think that exploring this idea of like the injustice against like the people with animal quirks or whatever is interesting, but the fact that he tries to do it like during the final battle, and we're like the main characters of this arc are like the tentacle guy, it's like, what are we doing, man? Like this is not.
Yeah, so you know that one, like, she looks like a My Little Pony. Like,
yes, yeah,
thick
yeah,
girl,
the one.
and she keeps getting reintroduced as like this like Deku fan. That felt so shoehorned.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know where Hirokoshi was going with that at all.
It's like he really wanted to tackle these subjects or whatever, but he couldn't find a good place to put it into the story until it was too late. And I think it just would have been better not there. Especially because, like, even before this arc, do, like, they ever talk about, like, the animal people being discriminated against? Like, I don't think so. Like...
No.
Like, it's not really an issue they ever talk about.
Well, I think that, like... It maybe, I don't know, this could be wrong. I feel like I remember at one point that there's like a story with Asui, and she's like struggled because everyone thought she was weird because her whole family are frog people.
She is weird.
I mean, like, see, that's
weird.
like, that's the racist part. Gear, what is happening on this podcast?
Listen, I've been playing a lot of Metaphor Fantasio, and there's this Luis guy, and he's got some good points, is all I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Oh, heck no.
Okay.
Get out of here, dude.
Okay, we're getting canceled, actually.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Did you listen to
maybe
any
at one
Kanye
point...
West recently, Gear?
I don't know. Maybe at one point they did actually... like, have, like, a side story. Definitely not a main story.
Yeah, like, it's really out of nowhere. And another issue I think I have with just the direction of the story in general is how involved All For One and All Might are. Like, to me, a big thing about the Hideout Raid arc was, like, this feeling of passing the torch, right? Like, All Might was passing the torch to Deku, All For One was passing it to Shigaraki. But as it goes on... like, All For One comes back and he sort of remains, like, the main villain, and sort of, like, merges with Shigaraki or whatever. And so to me, that sort of takes away a bit from Shigaraki's arc. And at the same time, I think the fact that they bring All Might back to fight in a mech suit just kind of goes against a lot of what his character was.
Yes,
so.
Like it was useless. Like,
yeah, it's like Horikoshi was like, "Oh, All Might, everyone loves All Might. We need him to have his big moment too." But I'm like, but the whole point of his character,
had his big moment.
Yeah, the whole point of his character was to
to pass on the torch. Like, what are we doing?
It doesn't.
There were like 3 moments with him where I was like convinced, all right, this is where he's gonna get killed off, and then he always would come back.
Yeah. I'll smash that
it-
future.
If nobody else would have died, this is not an unpopular opinion, but if nobody else would have died in the last arc, it should have been All Might. Story wise, it would have made the most sense. Not that that's a bad thing, that it's like not unexpected, but dang dog, they should have he should have died.
Yeah.
But again, the focus was not passing the. Maybe it was passing the torch to the next generation, but Deku lost all importance at the very end of the paranormal liberation war thing. To me, he lost like all importance, and then he really lost all importance at the end of the series because all of his powers are gone, and so it's like. Maybe they did need All Might to like get in there and do something because it's like All Might needed to also be important.
What else was there? There was this whole thing where Bakugo dies, like for real, but then Best Jeanist like goes into like his.
That was fucking stupid.
No, not Best Jeanist. It was
Yeah.
What is it? Ninjago, Deadshot,
Yeah.
Edgeshot. Edgy.
Yeah, the guy that can like slip through little cracks.
He can. What is he? Thread or some shit? I forget what he is, but like
then he lived because no one can die in the last arc because they literally say he holds his thumb up and go.
Yeah,
I'm
he lived.
Okay.
Well, Bakugo's the one who
shot.
kills All for One at the end, isn't he? When he comes
So
back.
like in the epilogue,
Yeah, he kills the baby.
in the epilogue, it says that Bakugo has essentially like lost a good portion of his like vitality or whatever the fuck. So he's probably gonna like have a shortened life. But yeah, it's really weird.
I will say, like, this series does avoid a lot of like that nonsense that a lot of battle manga have, but that was a very egregious moment in the story. Like.
It was pretty fucking
like
terrible.
when you get that spread of him just like fully dead, and that's how the chapter ends, and then they like talk about saving him, but we don't actually see it happen, and it was just like that really felt like adding false stakes.
Dude, the one thing that I was worried about the most, the one thing I can actually say that I'm really glad did not happen, was I'm really glad that Bakugo did not get One for All, because I was really, really nervous that
Like
they
the
were going to
movie?
do that. Yeah, like they did in the movie. And I was like, gonna be honest, with the way that they're going, it would make sense that it's like, that's how they do it, is that Bakugo ends up getting that.
Yeah.
But even then,
Yeah,
though,
I really thought that's what they were going for.
yeah.
As well.
I'm really glad he didn't either. I will say, if anyone in the main cast, I think that like anyone in Class A that maybe could have gotten it, or maybe should have gotten it, it should have been anyone in the main cast that should have got it, I think would have either been Todoroki or Kirishima.
I have to say on the
Huh?
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I have to say,
Kirishima.
on the note of Mineta, this is just going back. I've been making jokes about Mineta for years. I always thought he was just this wacky little dude. He's so much worse than I remembered. Like, I was actually shocked. He is the most irredeemable. He's the most irredeemable character in all of fiction. Like, he's horrendous. Holy shit.
There's 3 characters in Class B that are so much better than Mineta, and I don't understand how
I was shocked how
they didn't.
I was shocked how big a role Monoma has in the final arc. He's literally like where basically him and Aizawa both have, like, he has to copy Aizawa's powers, And like so he's
Yep.
basically there the entire time to keep Shigaraki in check, right? And I'm just like,
But also like Shinso, he's not even in Class B. Like how the fuck?
yeah, like it
Did that
really,
pass?
like yeah, like those two should have
Yeah.
absolutely been in Class A. Like what are we doing?
Yeah. We could have gotten rid of fucking Hagaraki, the invisible girl. She didn't do anything, and Mineta too.
Well, she's
Right.
not invisible anymore.
Well, yeah, and now when a belly button guy refracts off of her, she becomes visible, and she's like, "You guys can see me," and like because she's naked the whole time.
Yeah, and then I feel like, yeah, I'm naked.
And they have to form.
And she's
fucking
she's
mist
also
and fog out
ugly
of
as
air.
hell. No offense, but I don't care if she's invisible. She gotta comb that hair. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know if I can trust your hair opinions though, Gear. I mean, after the Hulkenberg cessation.
It's an ugly bang. I'm sorry. I don't like bangs like that. It's just personal preference,
Dude, one character that I think had a lot of potential, but I just think that they wrote him off as a gag character was Kaminari, because he had this like really touching and cool moment right at the beginning of the paranormal arc, and then they just give him that stupid face. It's not funny. It's literally just not funny. And they just make him like his brain shorts out. And I was like, man,
Oh, yeah.
that's like they give him this cool moment, but then it's like he literally just gets resorted to. He just gets resorted to charging the batteries at the final arc. This is really funny, guys.
I just thought
Really
of something.
cool.
I just thought so. Did they ever get Eri to try to reverse Bakugo's vitals so he becomes healthy again?
Shoot, dog. I don't
Just a
know.
thought.
Gosh, I'm surprised that they didn't make
You know
Eri
what?
like
Yeah,
try
give
to
it 2 more
rewind
years
all
Listen,
for
for
one.
I
Horn to
am
heal back.
I
Give it
am
a shot.
glad that Eri did not become as much of a Deus Ex Machina as she could have been. Like I think there was still that to an extent, but like overall, I feel like she was used pretty sparingly and like with good reason.
Yeah.
Like I think the way they sort of went about explaining her powers, and I don't mind. I know some people don't like Mirio the goat getting his powers back, but I mean they kind of like they keep like every like volume they're just like, oh, we're getting her ready to bring his powers back. So when it actually happened, like I wasn't really upset about it, but yeah, but they don't really use her for a ton else. I don't think. I think when doesn't Deku like lose his arm or some shit? Isn't that like her big moment at the end?
Does he lose his arm?
Yeah, he gets like both his
He
arms
loses.
blasted
So
off.
he
Yeah.
loses both of his arms, and then Eri regenerates them back.
Yeah, like listen, like it is kind of cheap, but at the same time, like Eri has just been a part of the series for so long, and it's something we know she can do. So I don't know. I'm not really upset about her inclusion. It's whatever.
That part's fine, because like I think that her like coming in and doing something like that was cool, because it's all like, oh, that's what she's like been working towards, like just
Yeah.
the one time. Mm-hmm. But like again, like I said, I'm really surprised that they just didn't be like, oh my gosh, Eri can bring back One for All for you, Deku.
Or at
Like,
least
gosh,
try to heal
gosh.
Bakugo. Jesus, his whole vitals
Gosh,
are.
dude, I would have like I say all these things of like I just was not I don't know. And then the final fight with everyone showing everyone is here. This isn't Smash Brothers, okay?
We're here to help.
We're here
that's
to
a
help.
throwback.
It's like,
God,
gosh, what's
yeah.
that One Piece meme
I
of where
think-
like everyone like
Yeah.
shows up? It's like Ace and Tom and he's like, we're here.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, there were definitely some parts of this arc, and there were some ideas that I liked, but yeah, overall, I think we're pretty much all in agreement that it was kind of a giant mess. Like,
Yes.
it was too ambitious, I think. Like, I just think it was a huge mistake to give every single person their big moment. And, yeah, I don't know.
But also, gosh, and this is not that like I am somebody that's like big into like romance and stuff like that, but the
Oh.
fact
Oh, yeah.
that everything with like I don't even have to mention that Ochako literally not even getting a singular moment to herself talking to Deku
Okay.
at the end of the series.
Why was there more romance between her and Toga than her and Midoriya.
Really?
Like, why?
Like,
That was the
it's-
gayest
yes,
shit.
bro,
That was the
like-
gayest shit I've ever seen. And they're just like, oh, I love you, and they're like sucking each other's blood. I'm like, what the hell is happening? And then the fact, like, basically the last moment we have with Deku and Ochako, she's basically crying over Toga. And again, like, I don't care really about their romance, but just the fact that it is something that was built up throughout the series, and then we just get nothing about it. I'm like,
Yeah.
And now people,
Because same
Like-
thing. All of class
Nothing.
Class A can't live alone. Like everybody has to collectively experience everything.
yeah, and it's funny because people were making fun of Deku at the end for being like friendless and shit, but I'm like, bro, he just has a job. He's just a normal adult.
Yeah, put the fries in the bag.
Like what do you, you know? I actually
Fries in the
think
bag.
I actually think thematically it works really well that he ends up becoming a teacher at the end.
Yes.
Like, that's one thing I thought was a pretty good story decision. But yeah, and I mean, I thought the epilogue was okay overall. I mean, it was just really the final arc kind of just sours it a bit. But know.
Yes, I think it does make sense thematically that he becomes the teacher, but I mean, it's also not unpopular. It's the suit. The suit. It diminishes everything that he, like, I don't know, like, that's okay that I think it's okay that he is content being a teacher and knowing that he doesn't have powers, and now it's just like, oh, Deku's not himself with, like, he still has friends, but it's like, he's like, he can't really feel himself without his powers. It's like, they weren't his to begin with.
Yeah.
It literally, there's so many things. It would be so okay if he was just content with being a teacher.
Also, I gotta bring it up, man. Deku's dad. What the hell? What's the
Right?
Yeah, he was mentioned once, never shown, never nothing. We have no idea what
All
he
we
looks
know
like,
about
what he
him
does.
is that he works
He breathes
overseas.
fire.
Yeah, he breathes fire and he works overseas. And I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, it's fine if you don't want him to be an important character, but just what? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like, what is
Which
it?
it's also
his
like
father is Endeavor.
Yo,
that's
that-
crazy.
I mean, that's how you do it.
No, awful,
That's the plan.
garbage.
But so something that I don't understand either is they teased it like twice.
Twice? R.I.P. the goat.
Damn.
So true.
They teased it twice that the doctor that saw him when he was a kid to confirm if he had a quirk could have stolen his quirk, but they never confirmed if he actually had a quirk.
Well, that's an
originally.
interesting point because Shigaraki's doctor is the doctor who saw Deku when he was younger, but they never really reveal that or do anything with it. I think maybe the implication that, like, he was stealing quirks, but they never really explore it. So it's entirely possible he was just a normal doctor before he turned bad. Like, it's just kind of weird.
Possibly. I don't know though, because like in the manga, didn't All For One actually mention that he's been working with this doctor for years?
Probably. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that was a point that was mentioned because when I was reading about all of this, it felt like a massive potential plot hole that could have been like used in an arc or a mini arc. It could have been a really good arc.
Yeah,
I guess.
I think that just goes back to, like, I mean, I think the series just got too big, and I think, like, its ambition sort of hurt it in the end. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah,
It
that's
got
fair.
kind of bloated with
For
plot
sure.
I think that
That's fair.
I definitely think that there's a lot of stuff that specifically when I think the stuff that we really enjoy, which is just kind of like that second third of the series, was when a lot of stuff got like set up, but then it was like kind of all at once, and like all these big things happening back to back to back.
Right.
But it just didn't have enough time for a resolution because the final saga is the shortest one of the series. Well, but then even then, the final war lasted for like a long time.
Yeah, it was. and that was mostly because you had to give every character a moment. Like if you
Yeah.
actually look at like what happens, I mean, they're pretty much fighting Shigaraki and All for One throughout the entire time, but we're just constantly cutting away to other nonsense. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean,
I think it could have been easily done if I think they should have cut away to like show what was going on, but it didn't have to be in like this grand scheme that they did it in.
for sure.
They could have like every few chapters cut away like mid chapter and just like shown what was happening on the other battlefields. Because I mean Naruto did this a couple of times. I think Bleach did it too,
Yeah, that's,
and they did it okay. But yeah, the final arc was way longer than it needed to be, and I think it suffered because of that.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of romance, though, we did get some romance. We got Gentle.
Yo, Gentle the goat.
I will be so for real. La Brava and Gentle is the worst arc in
What?
the series.
What?
I agree, actually.
And the
I-
fact that he came, and the fact that the two
Yeah.
of them came back in the end, was like
I don't think
it felt. I felt like I was reading Fairy Tale. Like that's
I
like
felt-
that kind of final arc.
I felt like I was reading anime filler in the manga.
that's a good, listen. I didn't hate it, but like I do agree. Like the whole plot line was basically Deku has to go get ropes for the school play, and then he just like runs into this guy, and they exchange blows, and then he goes to jail, and he's like, I'll be a better person. I'm sorry. And he was only a villain because he was getting like the same level of views manga gets.
Yeah, it was too big for its own britches.
I think overall, I can still definitely say I like this series, and it was definitely a very like important part of my manga journey, and I think I'll always respect it because I do think there are things that the series does really well. But yeah, it just kind of just sort of cracked under its own weight. But
Much like Gear's ankle.
I think if it had been able to kind of bring everything under like a more defined final arc and a final war arc, I think it would have been better.
for sure. I
In
think
general, if I'm only looking at the first two sagas, I think it's a very solid series, but like 7.5 probably, but adding in the final war arc, I think it drops it down to like a 6.5 for me.
what are we giving this on the boom meter, guys?
Isn't
Great
this
boom!
isn't this where you say Doom?
No, because we're listen. There's the boom or doom, where it's either boom or either.
You're the
doom.
only one that knows
that-
these references.
Right, but then there's also the
And,
boom
like,
meter, where it's basically a 5 out of 5 booms. So
Okay, I'm sorry to all the listeners here. For some reason, Joel has decided that he wants to watch a YouTube channel that's directed towards children, which makes so much more sense. if you
I
think
think
about it.
it's like all ages content.
Okay. Keep telling yourself that.
I would.
Guys, he might be 8 years old, but he makes videos for all ages.
I think that the first saga, I'd probably give a 7, and then I'd probably give the second saga of My Hero a 9. I think that it's
Damn.
I think that it's pretty good, but then I'd give the final act a 4 because it's garbage.
Oof. I think I'm feeling pretty. Like again, I wasn't super happy with how it all wrapped up, but I think overall, I think I'd give it like a 7 overall. Like I thought it was, for the most part, really solid. I definitely still recommend it to people, though I did mention this in my video. Like it would not be my first recommendation. Like if someone was like, "Hey, is this good?" I'd be like, "Yeah, it's good." But if they're like, "What should I watch? My Hero or Hunter x Hunter?" I'd I'd be like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say, like, the first act is, like, a pretty decent, like, 7. And then the villain, like, middle arc is very peak. Super awesome, like, pretty much a solid 9. And then the final act is very all over the place. Like, there are some things I love about it and some things that are like, bruh. I'd say the final act in general is like a 5 to 6 max.
So
I don't know.
Manga Alert's
I'd go like
so
7.5.
Manga Alert's consensus is 3 out of 5 booms on the boom meter. Boom!
Sure, man.
Boom! Boom!
I need my math teacher wife to tell me the average of all of our scores. But
Sorry, we're getting a bit too far into
So
brain
true.
rot now. I think we should probably give it a rest for the night. Thank you all for
Gotta rest our rizzle.
thank you all for coming back. I know it's been a longer break than normal, but we're back and we're here to stay. Hopefully, you never know. We're dropping members like flies these days. Maybe we'll
True.
get Big
Real.
Justice and the crew on. They seem to be on everything. I don't know. We'll see.
And we gotta get talked to.
Oh, we gotta get Taktua on. Oh,
who?
bro, you don't know Haktua?
No, I
What the
think
hell?
I do know that.
Stop doing that thing.
I think I just have chosen to ignore it though.
That's unfortunate. But yeah, we're gonna get Haktua on. We're gonna get Mr. Beast and that whole crew on. Who else?
Mm-hmm.
I think we want Manga Alert to continue.
Stream KSI's new single.
Yes, Thick of It. Good song. Good song.
I'm in the thick of it. Everybody knows.
Enter
I
our-
actually do know that one.
Everyone knows it. It's song of the fall, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that'll do it. Everyone get out and vote. Am I right?
You're Canadian. What?
Yeah, but I have like something like 1,000 ballots.
He also said some bullshit about Thanksgiving being like a week ago.
I am Canadian, but
Yeah.
I have like 1,000 ballots that were dropped at my house. I got to go like deliver them to Michigan to drop them off at a
So
spot.
Trump is cheating.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
Anyway,
in Minecraft.
hopefully your country is still here when Manga Alert returns. For the sales cast, let's go!
For the
I don't know.
sales cast.
Let's go.
Project 2025.
I
I,
haven't-
don't know, guys. I might have to be on the
All
DL.
right, thank you
Yeah.
all for watching.
I haven't even looked at last year's sales to see what might happen this year.
Well, that's your
you've
that's your
got
home,
time for the
November, right?
next one.
That's your
Thanks,
homework,
guys, for
Apollo.
listening
Yeah,
to this
tune
episode
in
of
next
Manga Alert.
week.
We can't wait to see you guys at our biggest cast of the year when we return for the sales cast next week.
No